Here we are at the final episode of our series. Britney Spears' new album could potentially sound like this. Guys, welcome back to Still Slaps. I'm Shuby, repping for Still Slaps. We've got the music commentary for today, the final commentary slash theory analysis. First video series that we've done in regards to Britney Spears. We are going to be talking about the conclusion of theorizing what this new album could potentially sound like if Britney were to plan on making a comeback pretty soon, which we all can kind of theorize that it's coming soon. But this is my thoughts on the conclusion of what this album could be wrapped up in a bow with, and really how it can be her biggest comeback in her career after the conservatorship. Get into specifically some collaborations on this portion of the final part of the album that could really make it go. If you guys want to check out the previous episodes, you can do that in the link below. Not really going to go into too depth of a past overview, but we basically kind of broke it up into different themes of what this album could potentially sound like and what the songwriters can kind of use to kind of push a performance out of Britney that is going to be sincere and both cinematic for this album. Now, we're going to get into the collaboration portions. I think it's very, very important in this part of the album. We've kind of got a little bit of, I want to say, thematically, we're going to be talking about the resolutions that Britney can have. And I think in the part of the album of resolution, talking about the theme of resolution, we're going to obviously be addressing lyrically Britney's freedom from her shackles of the conservatorship. We're going to be talking about, we can kind of build up in this track list portion of the album. You can build up and talk about how lyrically Britney's escapism, what she was doing in this period of time, key moments, and maybe even getting a little personal. Not a little, we want the full kaboom, because that's what's gonna bring Britney's best performance out. She's gonna get therapeutic, and it's gonna push her to the bounds of just the extensive therapeutic cinematic performance that we are going to get out of this new album. So how do you do that? You go into the difficult portions of this conservatorship. Lyrically, you can kind of bring that out in the themes, kind of get in depth as to what Britney was going through in this portion. That can be the time limits that she had with her children, specifically with dealing with the weight of the anxiety and what she was dealing with in that particular portion. That can be the imprisonment that she was going through at this particular time period. You're talking about just so many different themes that you can go through on a serious route. You know, those can be some nice little album cuts lyrically that you can get into. For songwriters for this portion of the album, I was thinking off the top, Ryan Tedder came to my mind as far as songwriters that Britney can get with. In this particular portion of the album, Ryan Tedder has definitely proven that he can write, some great songs. He's great in getting in the minds of other artists, and I think Ryan Tedder could give Britney that her formula in working with her vocals, as far as just giving her the song kind of like a Ella Henderson Ghost, not typically sonically in that realm, the same realm as Ghost, but really lyrically more so. He can point her in sort of that direction that can give her, really have her vocals come to the point where they're tested in a way where you can have lyrically that structure of a song like a Ghost. Now, you guys let me know in the comments, obviously, who you're thinking too. Another person I was thinking about that can probably really give the album sonically a more modern, nice sound that Britney might be able to hop on is no other than the Weeknd. No one other than the Weeknd. Weeknd has definitely proven his weight when you're talking about a vulnerability. I think the Weeknd and Britney, I think if they were to hop on a track together, it would definitely be a matter of getting the chemistry right, because we all know the Weeknd's range vocally is pretty high. I think Britney, if she, depending on what she's been doing vocally for her training, if she's been training recently, I think she can definitely get to a close range with the Weeknd, depending on obviously the structuring of the song and the idea. But I do think the Weeknd can challenge that vulnerability and ultimately push a great song out for Britney when you're talking about the themes that we're talking about in this setting of just vulnerability and feeling like you're imprisoned and feeling like you have nowhere to go in regards to the situation. I think the Weeknd can definitely give Britney a couple tracks on this resolution part of the album in its closure. Another songwriter that I was thinking about that I think Britney will be definitely beneficial to tag team with, and I think not only does it make sense, but it kind of is almost like a little bit of a, I don't know, it feels like a little bit of a foreshadowing for this particular artist, but I'm thinking Dua Lipa. I'm thinking Dua Lipa would definitely do, and I'm not just talking about Dua Lipa in the sense of dance and pop. I'm talking about taking Dua Lipa, what she can do vocally, because Dua Lipa can definitely do some nice head tricks vocally, but not just taking her and putting her in the dance realm. And same thing with the Weeknd. I'm talking about taking Dua Lipa and putting her in a more sentimental, using her vocals to really give you that dramatic, cinematic, therapeutic, finding that soul in Dua, because she definitely has it. I think if her and Britney marry those styles together on a track that you're talking about, like I said, thematically, I think Dua Lipa, if she wanted to, can tap into kind of seeing the experience that Britney's gone through and maybe seeing in her own way how she can tap in personally and give her 2 cents. We all know that she's commented on the conservatorship that Britney's gone through and had to suffer through. We know she's come out with her specific comments on how she's felt about Britney's conservatorship and what she's been going through. So what better way to marry those two together on a track? Give it, like I said, a little bit more of a soulful versus a dance seller. The dance seller could obviously work, but like I said, we're in this to get Britney to a therapeutic space and to bring the honest performance out. This last songwriter, man, you guys are gonna hate me. The Britney squad, I'm definitely gonna lose subscribers for this, but whatever. I'm thinking Britney and Justin need to get in the studio together. Hear me out. Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake were, at the time they were together, two of the biggest forces in pop music. But I'm not saying they should get together just for the sake of getting together to make it work for the music. Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake, I don't think they ever got closure, not just from a relationship standpoint. Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake did not get closure in the sense of the business that they had to go through at that point in time in their music careers. Justin Timberlake was part of the biggest cons in the industry at the time with Lou Pearlman. You guys can look up that story. It's crazy, with NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys. It's part of the biggest just criminal movements that happened at that time with two of the biggest boy bands. You don't think Justin has some sort of unresolved tendencies that he can marry on a track with Britney to get off his chest for good? if he hasn't already in his own personal music, which I personally, as a person who listens to Justin, I don't think he's done it yet. And I think he can find a marriage with Britney, whether they're tapping in from a therapeutic standpoint of just getting everything they need to get off of the table, whether it be about the whole situation with being conned, feeling like you need to get the closure from your past as going through the industry and being treated like a rag doll, and just kind of having that unresolved portion in your career that you have to finally come through and address. I feel like Britney and Justin, it just makes sense for them to get together, sit down, and really lyrically think about the themes and think about what they both gone through in the sense of the music business and their personal lives, marry them together, put that joint out. Not only do you have closure after something like this, but you've got the great music, and you've got, hopefully, the marriage of fan bases can finally come together and just forget about everything that has been a bygone, that has happened in the past. Let's be honest, it needs to be a conversation, and it definitely should be a potential track. You know, we've had years and years of the headlines chasing the same story, whether it be about Justin and Janet Jackson, or whether it be about Britney and, you know, her situation with her past relationship. We get the memes, but we really need to get the closure as well. And I think Britney and Justin could be the last track on the album. It makes sense for it to be the last track on the album. It makes sense for lyrically. It makes sense for them to just nip everything in a bow as far as closure. I think with this album, you can have such a modern sound that could work for Britney, and at the same time, you just got such a nice, just big track list that is gonna make sense, not just from a mainstream standpoint, but if you're talking about getting Sia on the cinematic, dramatic, therapeutic writing, also Ryan Tedder, and potentially The Weeknd, and more importantly, Justin Timberlake being able to get thrown into that equation to seal all the nonsense that they've had in the drama off for good. It makes sense. Guys, this has been my take on what the Britney Spears new album could potentially sound like. We'll see how accurate I am when this new album comes out. I'm gonna need you guys to link below your thoughts, good or bad. Like the video, subscribe, notifications on. We'll try and play around with more series like this. I really did have fun doing it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed listening to me. Let me know how you're feeling about the new Britney album, what you think it's going to sound like. And yeah, we'll talk more. We'll see what happens, I guess. Thank you guys. This has been Shuby. Still slaps.